Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Just looking to see if this is actually going live. Hope so. We're live? I hope we're live. Right, so it says we're live. So let's go. Right, cool. So, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Right, so welcome to another Untriggered Mama Huddle. We're back. We're here. Right, cool. So, so good morning, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you're watching this from. Welcome. Today's topic is called Who Are You Voting For? And it's about the power of your decisions. That's what the thumbnail says, power of your decisions. So, mummies, we are getting into this topic today on the power of your decisions or the lack of your decision. We'll get into it anyway. Anyway, anyone joining us live, say hey. Anyone that's on the replay, also hashtag replay hey as well. Want to see all your comments. Use the comments box as your virtual voice. I can't hear you. I can't see you. I'm glad that you are seeing this whenever you're seeing this, but I want to hear from you as well. Like, write your comments, like what's your biggest takeaway, like what did you learn? If you've got any more questions, was something unclear? Like, I need all of it. All right, so hi, if you're new here, I am Nicole, Mathieu-Marius, trigger management coach for high achieving mummies. My role here, my assignment, other than being a mother to many children and a wife, my assignment here is to also help other high achieving mums to overcome mum guilt, self-doubt, and overwhelm. And I do this like with the word of God, because I believe that is where truth is. That's where it's all based. So that's what we do here, right? But what I help them to do is overcome that, all of those things, and be able to thrive in motherhood and career. We don't have to choose, so we are able to do both. And so I do that, help them to do that, so that they leave with unwavering confidence, able to just go for it, like rock motherhood, rock career, and just be cool. Anyway, so that's what we do here. Let's just get into it. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for these moments that we have together. Thank you for technology, because people can catch up at any time. I'm able to share to people. I don't even know who's going to see this, but Lord, you know. And I pray that you cleanse me and but use me at the same time. I'm not perfect. I am a work in progress as well. We are aiming for this constant progression, Father. Speak to me as you speak to me. I'm always learning something new. Whatever you want to share, Lord, we're open. What do you want to share with your daughters today? Like, share your heart. Lift us up, encourage us, show us where we're doing well, show us the areas we need for improvement, help us to not get a bad attitude, but to get busy, Father, in fixing the things that agitate the soul and agitate the spirit, agitate us. There's a reason for it. Lord, just do your thing. This is your space. This is your time. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, cool. So, the topic say, who are you voting for? So, it was in the UK. It was just voting time for the new mayor. No, not mayor. What's his name? The MP guy. Anyway, we're not going to go into that. But voting is important, and it's always been important, especially like to women of color as well. Like voting, we didn't always have the option of voting. So now that we have the option, everyone's like, you must vote. And so that's political stuff. But I want to speak about the voting for yourself. Like, who are you voting for? It's so important. And a lot of the time we so this is how this came about, basically. So obviously I have questioned moms and stuff. Basically, these are the things I always hear coming up. Any topics that we discuss here, uncover here, are things that when I speak to moms, these are the things that are on their minds, basically. What I see as a pressing issue is a lot of the time we just think, I don't have a choice. I just had to kind of do it. And so mums, it's not just mums, but obviously because I speak with mums a lot of the time, and this is who I work with, and I am one myself, I understand that sometimes as mums it's hard to make this decisions that we have to make. I remember growing up with my mum, and we were in a single parent I always say single parent home because my dad wasn't there, but he was very present. And so my mum had to make a lot of decisions. She had to make some hard ones sometimes, and I guess some of them would have been very easy, but had to make decisions. And I remember, and I can look back now and I can really appreciate them. At the time I was like, mum, I think you're out of order, I think this is a bit rude and stuff like that. Sometimes she would say, like, I couldn't go out with my dad, but not that I couldn't go out with him. There was a time I had a bedtime. And so when it came to the bedtime, if my dad hadn't reached there yet, he wasn't there yet, sorry, she can't come out. You can come up, you can come see her, you can still have a chat with her, but she can't come out with you now because it's late. And I would be so upset, like, you just don't want me to be with my dad. Or my mum would be like, no, that's not it. But obviously I didn't understand because I was young. And so she had to make these hard decisions based on principles, not on feelings, which we have also spoke about last week. And so she had to make decisions, like what was going to be best for her, what was going to be best for me. And if she constantly went back on some of the things that she had decided, then what does that say to me? So as mums, I understand that we have to make decisions. Sometimes it's about sacrificing something for ourselves. And sometimes there's big things, sometimes there's small things. Sometimes it's like, oh, I have to share this yogurt again. Like, it's quite small. But sometimes over a period of time, if you have to keep constantly giving, it can be a bit of a jarring thing. Like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to give because I always give. So it can be a sacrificing of yourself. It can be sacrificing in the moment. Like I was saying, like my mom had to make a decision. As mums, we have to make a decision in the moment sometimes. And it might not always be the best one, but we have to make something in that moment. Can they eat that thing? Can they go to that place? Can they have that thing? We have to make a decision right here, right now, and kind of just deal with the aftermath of it, whatever it might be afterwards. So sometimes because of that, we're not always in an easy place. It's not always like an easy decision that we have to make. And sometimes we feel wrong during even making the decision. Sometimes after making the decision, we feel, oh, that was a wrong decision. And sometimes this causes us to be in that analysis paralysis place, like, oh, I don't really know what to do. But the longer we take to make a decision, obviously you're still making a decision, I guess, or the lack of making a decision, there's still going to be some kind of outcome. And sometimes because we fear getting it wrong, like it's an actual fear, it just stops us from making a decision. And some of the things that we stop ourselves from doing is just like progressing. We say, oh, I need to do this and I can't progress in my career because I have to do this with the children, or I want to progress in my career so that I can do this for the children. So we get in this dilemma of which one goes first and what can we. So you understand what I'm saying. So I wanted to I guess I kind of used that story. I already used the story of my growing up, how it was for me. But I also think about, in terms of the vote, who are we voting for? Like the decisions that we make every single day, the decisions that we've made up until this moment have created who we are now. So everything, I am 38 years old. Every decision, choice, every habit, everything that I've done up until now, because who I am is literally a sum total of all my habits, all of my choices, my decisions, my whatever it is. That's who I am today. And so if I want to be something different than I am currently, I have to do something different. So I'm gonna have to make different choices. And I'm always reminded of this story that I have when I was in secondary school, secondary school, and I had a fight. Didn't have many fights in life. I hate fight. I can't stand fighting. I don't like it. But I had a fight in school, and I didn't want to fight. I can't really remember. I just thought it was like, it was rude. This girl was very rude. She was being rude and disrespectful. And it wasn't even like to me. She was being rude and disrespectful. I think it was about my friend's dad. And I don't even know how we got into it, but we ended up fighting. And everyone, generally at that time, we had our head of year was serious. Yeah, Miss Bonsu, she was serious. I don't know. Shout out Miss Bonsu, she was serious. Really, really, really great teacher. And she was our head of year. And I knew what was coming next. I knew that we were going to be excluded, or internal. We were probably going to get exclusion, because that's generally what happened. You had a fight, you get excluded for a couple of days, so you can't come to school. So I am absolutely bricking it now. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, my mum is just going to lose her mind. I don't do this stuff, and she's just going to be like, what are you doing? So I am upset that I had this fight already. It wasn't even like my fight. It was anyway. And then I knew I'm gonna have to go home, and my mom's just gonna be vexed. She's gonna be so annoyed with me. And so, I can't remember what happened at school. I think we got called in. Maybe it happened in a break time. I mean, we got called in to speak to the head of year, and she kept us in class and in her classroom. So we're not in our classes. We're internally excluded. So we're still in school, but we're just not in our classes. So we have to go and get our work from our teachers, go and sit with our head of year in her classes for the rest of the day. And she spoke to me. She's like, Nicole, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. And I told her what happened, whatever happened at the time. She spoke to the other girls, what happened, whatever happened. So I'm like, now this is like the longest walk home. And when I walk home, I am like, how am I going to tell my mum this stuff? Or how am I even going to face her? Because I know my mum, she's serious, and it would be discipline. It's automatic discipline, right? And so I'm like slightly fearful about what's going to happen here. I'm not going to lie. But I go home, and she could tell like I'm a little bit apprehensive. And so I say to her, she's like, what is it, Nick? Just say it. So I'm like, so Mum, I had a fight today at school, and I just it all came out. I was like, I'm just waiting because the school's going to call, and that's what they generally do. They'll call because parents are working, so they assume that they won't be home till later. So expect a call at some point. The school's going to call because I had a fight. I'm going to be excluded. Probably not going to be at school tomorrow. No, they told me to come in the next day. But so she was like, I'm going to be excluded. And so yeah, I don't know how this is going to play out. Probably going to be on have a report card or something in the other. Anyway, so my mom's just like, oh, Nick, man, what happened? So I told her what happened properly, and she was like, well, you're just gonna have to deal with it. She was really, really cool. I was very surprised how cool she was, but this is not my usual behavior. So, I was just like, okay, cool, no problem. I went back to school the next day, and I'm waiting for this phone call. Like, no one called when I got home from school. No one had called that day. No one called the next day. And I think I was internally excluded for, I can't remember, it was maybe like the rest of the week, 3 days or something like that. And no one had called home. Like the teacher, my head of year, no one had called home. And I was like, what's going on here? So I spoke to my head of year. I was like, no, I didn't even speak. Did I speak to her? I think parents' evening was coming up as well. And I was like, oh no, this is going to be mentioned at parents' evening or whatever. So we get to parents' evening now, and my mum and my dad was very involved. My mum was like, you're coming. And my dad's like, sure, no problem. So they go to the parents' evening, and nothing was mentioned about this fight whatsoever. And I'm just sitting there thinking, what is going on here? So my mum said, Nicole had a fight. And so I just was wondering what happened, because I didn't get a phone call or anything. My teacher was like, oh, no, it's not part of we haven't put that on her report or anything. This is totally out of character for Nick. She doesn't usually behave like this. Like, so we just thought it's just a one-off. Like, we would just leave it, So they didn't notify my mum at all. They weren't even thinking about notifying my mum. The other girl, she got all the notifications and all that kind of stuff because she was doing this all the time. And so I was so nervous. I was so like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get in so much trouble. Like, I didn't even have to go home and tell my mum. Had I known that, like, I wouldn't have to go and tell my mum. Maybe I wouldn't have, but I did, because it's actually in my character to be honest with my mum. So I did. I went home and I was honest. And she always wants to hear it from me first. She wants to hear it from the person first. She doesn't want to hear it on the grapevine. So my teacher was like, oh yeah, it's very out of character for her. And so yeah, we just thought we'll just leave this one. And I was like, wow, like you think so? You think that of me? Like it was being younger, 14, maybe 14, 15 or something like that. And it made me just made me understand that I've been making choices basically. I've been making decisions. And even if I don't see it myself, like there is a standard. People know who I am and what I stand for. And so in that moment, my teacher, she didn't have to question who I was or what I stood for, or if this was an accident, or if this is going to be a reoccurring thing. But because of my previous behavior, my character, like, oh, we can let this one slide. Like, if it happens again, we may have to do something else, because when it happened to other people, there was like all of this intervention and all this kind of stuff. They got to go here and see this person, and I didn't get any of that. And so I say that, give you that story is to say that it's really important about the decisions that we make from a young person in school still. Like, those decisions that I made were obvious to other people, not always to me, because I was like, oh no, like it didn't even cross my mind that because of all the other choices I'd made, or the person that I was being at that time, that I would get that favor. And so this story just goes to explain a little bit about the person that you are voting for. Like, who are you voting to be? So at that time, my teacher could see that there was something in me. There was potential for something bigger, greater, or whatever it was. And so I don't want you to go down that route. I want you to go down the route of the good things and the great things and stuff like that. So we're not going to deviate that way. We're going to keep going in the positive direction. And so from that, I think I don't really feel like I understood the gravity of it until I got older and I started to realize that I got favor there. You know, okay, I made some good decisions then. Right. So also, my mum used to tell me all the time to stick up for those that are like the weak or the whatever, and always for your family. And I remember ended up at another fight. That again wasn't my fight, but for my cousin. And yeah, I ended up having a fight with this other girl from another school. And again, my mum was like, she came home and she was like, oh, I heard that you was down at this station. I was like, huh? Because my mum knew everybody. So I had to just tell her the truth. Yes, I was there. My cousin, this, that, and the other. Something happened. She's like, oh, I understand what you're doing. Please, just like, let's not do this stuff. Like, let's not go down that route. But again, my character was one that, like, who am I voting for? I'm not going to be someone that's just going to stand there and let somebody not I just that's my family. Like, I'm gonna fight for you, like tooth and nail, like, or we're both going down, because that's the way I was actually brought up. Like, if someone's gonna get in trouble and you didn't step in, you're gonna get into trouble later on. Anyway, so my character I don't think it's ever been questioned, like, in a negative way. People generally know what I stand for and what I will stand for and what I won't. So it's because of who I've decided to vote for. And I think when I was younger, I didn't even understand who I was necessarily voting for. But now I'm older, I get it more now. So as mums, we need to understand, who are we voting for? Are we happy with who we are right now? If we are, continue doing the things that you're doing because it's working, clearly. But if you're not, we have to change the input. And one of the things I want us to be very, very clear on is the word about choices and decisions. They're two different things, although a lot of the time we use them interchangeably, but they're not. So the definition of decision, when I looked up the meaning, it says a conclusion or a resolution reached after consideration. So when you make a decision, that means you have considered something. You've pros and cons, the ups, the downs, the goods, the bads, the ins, the outs, whatever it might be. You've looked at all of these different things, and then you have now decided something. You've made a conclusion. You're now resolute in that conclusion that this is the way that I'm going to go. However, we interchange this word with choices, and they're not the same. Choices are the options that are laid out in front of you. So you can do A, B, or C. That's your choice. Decision, when I looked up in the Latin, it means, it's made of two words. The D, which is from, and side is to cut, right? So to cut from or to cut off. And so when you make a decision, you cut yourself off from any other possibility. So you can create your own decision. An option are things that are already laid out in front of you, and you just pick from those things. When you let's say you choose from something that's already given, then you can decide that none of them are good for you and create your own your own way. So that's the difference between choices and decisions. Choices, you get to, but they kind of link at the same time. So let's do this. First of all, you have to have an awareness, which is one of the things that I always teach. You have to be aware of what's going on, aware of your thoughts, aware of your feelings, aware of the behaviors, or just be aware of whatever the thing is. So you have to always be thinking about what you're actually thinking about. What was I thinking about? What was I thinking about at that time? What made me think that was a good thing to do? What thoughts do I have that I didn't even think about? It's automatic, but you have to think about what you've been thinking about. And generally, these things are negative. It's very easy for us to have negative thoughts rather than the positive thoughts. The negative ones come in a lot easier. That's why we have to be very, very intentional about being aware in the beginning stages. And then it becomes something that you can, it's almost like passive. It's automatic. So, but you have to train yourself to become aware of the way that you're thinking, if it makes sense. And the second step of that is then choice. So you then choose to pay attention to something specific, or then you choose, to focus on, what am I going to focus on? Am I going to focus on a good thing? I'm going to focus on a bad thing. So a situation arises, something happens, and then you then have to choose your thought pattern. Am I going to be thinking or continue the negative thought, or am I going to change and think on the positive? Right? So this is where choice comes in. Then you make a decision to cut off any other option. So if I now decide that this is the way that I'm going to think in the positive, that's it. I'm not going back to the negative. The decision has been made and I'm only going in this route. It's the same thing that when people think about their career, or I'm going to uni to do this, and then I'm going off after uni. There are many pathways. Anything you finish, once you finish school, in general, there are many pathways. You can go into an apprenticeship, you can go into work, you can go into uni. Like, you can decide to do none of the above. You can go and travel the world. Like, there's so many options that you can do. And it's the same thing in parenting. There are options available to us, some of them that we didn't even think of. So when I became a parent, I keep saying this, my husband said to me, we were always going to homeschool. I don't remember that. I didn't even know that homeschooling was really an option. And if I left it to my limited knowledge of what I knew at that time, then I would never have homeschooled. But I then made a choice to start focusing on finding more information out about this thing. Can I do this? Is this something that's viable? And then I made a decision that there are no other options. There is no government schooling. There is no public schooling. It is homeschool for us. And there is no turning back. There's no other option. And people are like, oh, you can put them back into school. It's not an option for me, because this is the way that I'm going. And so that's what we do. I'm not looking to school as an option. I mean, the potential is always there, like it's always open. Like, same thing with marriage. People were like, oh, you can always leave. No, there's no option. We've already decided, like, till someone is dead. That is it. There's no other option, right? Cool. There's no other option. There is no, there's nothing else. Right. So those are the 3 steps that I found help us in voting for the person that we want to become. But it all goes back to, who are you? Like, who do you want to be? Like, who are you now? So you have to be aware of the things that you're doing now. Who are you now? Are you happy with these things? Because you are currently being at your highest capacity, you're operating at your highest capacity of being at this moment, based on all of the decisions and everything that you've done before. And so if you're not happy with it, then we need to change. We need to change. We need to go to a new level of being. So think about it. Who do you want to be in the next 5-10 years? That's too far. Who do you want to be by this time next year? Whoever she is, if you're on the right path to becoming her, keep doing what you're doing. If you aren't, then there's some work to do. You need to figure out what that gap is. We need to get some new habits going. We need to start making some new decisions. We need to start looking at the choices that are around us, and are they even viable? Am I interested in those? No, I'm going to have to create my own my own lane and make a decision. This is the way I'm walking. This is the way, walk in it, because sometimes I find that although it's very hard, it's also very simple. Like, God isn't, it's not complicated what he's asked us to do. It's just that the flesh thing, like, oh, it's hard because it goes against what's the norm, what's comfortable, what is the broad road and the narrow road, like the broad gate and the wide the gate, no, and the narrow gate. It goes against the flesh. The flesh is saying, like, oh, just do the easy option, the path of least resistance. But the spirit is always telling you there's more, there's so much more. But it's going to be there's a new level with your name on it, but it's got to take some work. And the scripture that always comes to my mind when I think about this work, about the decisions and stuff, is James 1:7, James 1:8. And it says, let me just read it. James 1:8. And it says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Right? That's James 1:8. But in the Amplified version, it's got more words. I like the Amplified as well sometimes. It says, for being as he is, a man of two minds, hesitating, dubious, irresolute, he is unstable and unreliable and uncertain about everything he thinks, feels, and decides. So if we are double-minded, if we're not sure about what we're doing and why we're doing it and who we are and who we're not and all this kind of stuff, then we are double-minded. And it says the double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And even though you're a woman, yes, the double-minded woman is unstable in all her ways too. So the reverse of that, the flip of that, is also true. The one that is focused, the man or the woman whose mind is focused. What's the inverse? Like, what's called the inverse of that? They're stable in all their ways, and that's where we want to be. We want to be sure. We want to be standing on that foundation that we are sure of the thing that we are doing. Listen, even if you're not sure if the outcome is going to be exactly what it needs to be, you need to be sure in the decision that you're making. But who are you voting for? Are you voting to be this wishy-washy, mamby-pamby, whatever person? Or are you going to be this resolute person? Like, I'm stand by what until the end. I see it through to the end, whatever that thing might be. And so it's important that we vote for the person that we want to be. We have children watching us who we always say, oh, I say, the people say, do as I say and not as I do, but we know that's not true. It doesn't work like that. Children are going to follow what they see more than what they hear. So we must be the examples, and we're going to get it wrong sometimes. We're not perfect. This is where that progress, not perfection, working on constantly progressing, that's where this comes in. And being okay with, like, you fail sometimes and owning it, being aware and just like, okay, so what do we do here? Where do I need to adjust? And that's fine. That's fine, because it's all part of the becoming. Who are you voting for? Are you voting for this external looking, beautiful, finished products, exemplary mother, career woman, Are you going for that? Or are you going for the real stuff? Like, I work hard at becoming the person I'm actually supposed to be. Someone that your children can look back on and be like, she gave me a really good example of, even when she was wrong, how to fix it. She gave me a really good example of how to become better, how to persevere, how to work hard, how to bounce back from setbacks. How do we do this stuff if we're not honest and we're not real with ourselves? Like, who do we want to become? And that's the question I want to leave with you today. So who do you want to become? What is the gap between who you are now and the who you want to become in the future? Figure out that gap and start implementing the steps to closing the gap. And if you need help, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. So I just wanted to just leave that little thing with you today. I don't feel like it's super hard or anything, but it is kind of hard. It's hard because of the flesh, but it's easy because God doesn't hide anything. It's very simple. He's like, just do what I'm asking you to do. Just bring it to me. Bring it to Daddy. I can help you out. Okay. So remember, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So the inverse of that is also correct, that a focused person is stable in all their ways. At least people know exactly what they're going to get with you. At least your children know what they're going to get with you. At least you know what you're going to get with you, And that is what really counts. Who am I voting for? Who are people going to say that I am? Who is God going to say that you are? At the end of the day, sometimes we wear our brokenness as like some badge, or like, like a badge of honor. Like, we walk around with this problem and be like, yeah, I used to be like, I was like this and I'm like this, we walk around with it like a badge of honor. But what about the inverse of that? What about when people can now look at you and they do not? I was reading a post from one of our pastors yesterday, and he's like, so what, when people look at you and they cannot associate the old thing with you anymore? Like, it might be a totally new person who's met you and be like, oh yeah, but you don't understand that because you've never been there before. Well, I don't understand depression. I've definitely been there before. Oh no, but Nick, you've got it all together. Oh, do I? Or have I always had it all together? Oh, Nick, you rock this motherhood thing, but oh, have I always? Like, I can wear it as a badge of honor and be like, oh, you don't know about my past. You don't know what I've been through, and da 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 da. Or I can actually take it as, wow, transformation has actually occurred because you can't see what I've been through. Based on my decisions, I made a decision. I cut off every other option. My children are watching me. I decided there has to be something good for them to watch. Children are excellent imitators. Give them something great, amazing to imitate until they make it their own. That's it. I'm signing out. Have an amazing Sunday, everybody. And we are here every single Sunday, 11 a.m. BST, and that's 6 a.m. EST. All of the other times in between, y'all gonna have to figure out. I don't know. Also, Wednesday, Facebook Live at 3 p.m. on my Facebook page. I'll leave the link below so you can join in as well. So I do a Facebook Live on my page based on this, what we've done here on Sunday. I just go a little bit deeper or take it at a slightly different angle, have a little training on it. If you want to join us, be there or be square. And it's not there forever as well. It's only there for a couple of days. And then it goes into my group, locked into my vault. If you want to be part of the group, you got to be a mama. So you can get into the group as well. That link will be below here as well. So thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. And also, last week we were talking about emotional regulation, and I have a masterclass coming up on the 21st of May, all about the science of emotional regulation. It's only for mummies though. And that link will also be in the description box below. So we will be discussing lots of things like the sciencey stuff. I'm a bit of a sciencey geek. So we'll be talking a little bit about the brain, how the brain comes together, and, all this stuff happens, and, reactions happen. How do we actually bring calm to ourselves. So some strategies for us to be calm and regulate ourselves. How do we help regulate our babies? All of the stuff. So if you're interested, join me. The link will be below. And yeah, have an awesome week, everybody. I hope that you get to enjoy some sun. I miss the aurora. Can you imagine all these people out here talking all this nonsense about all these other celebrities and all this foolishness, and nobody thought to put up the aurora stuff? Anyway, my feelings are slightly hurt, but I'm going to decide that I'm going to make it. I'm not going to decide now. I've decided I'm going to see the Northern Lights, and I'm going husky riding, sledging, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing it before my creator comes to me. So yes. Anyway, have a good week, everybody. See you next week. Bye.